They thought it would be just another royal interview. But when Prince Harry sat across from Savannah Guthrie, everything unraveled faster than anyone expected. He came in confident, but by the time it was over, he wasn't just humiliated, he was kicked out. This isn't just another royal controversy. This is the day everything changed for Prince Harry. Live on American television. The Today Show studio was alive with its usual hum of production. Technicians adjusted lights, producers whispered into earpieces, and Savannah Guthrie flipped through her cue cards with the calm precision of a veteran journalist. Everything looked routine on the surface, but beneath the polished exterior, there was a tension that not even the crew could quite explain. Prince Harry was in the building. He had arrived 15 minutes earlier than scheduled, dressed sharply in a tailored navy suit. His security team moved like shadows behind him, and his PR handler, an anxious young woman with a clipboard and Bluetooth headset, hovered close, rehearsing pre-approved talking points in a hushed voice. Harry nodded along but kept glancing around the studio with something between suspicion and disdain. This wasn't Buckingham Palace. It was American media territory. Unpredictable. Uncontrolled. 5 minutes, a producer called. Savannah smoothed her hair, straightened her blazer, and stood up to greet him. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness," she said with a warm smile. Harry nodded, his tone clipped. "Just Harry's fine." Savannah caught the subtext. Don't lean into the titles, don't mention the crown, but she offered nothing more than a gracious, "Of course." She gestured toward the interview chairs, and they both took their seats. The cameras rolled. "Welcome to the Today Show," Savannah began. "It's a pleasure to have you with us." "Thank you," Harry replied with a tight smile. Savannah kept her tone light. "You've been busy, book tours, speaking engagements, a new documentary. We're excited to hear more." Harry nodded. "It's about sharing my truth, really. Setting the record straight." His words echoed a phrase he had used often in interviews, and Savannah didn't challenge it. Yet. The first 10 minutes glided by smoothly. Savannah asked about his latest project, an initiative promoting mental health awareness for veterans, and Harry answered with poise, even charm. He spoke passionately about the cause, name-dropped several nonprofit partners, and used the phrase, "duty beyond the uniform," at least twice. Viewers across the country probably nodded in approval. But Savannah wasn't here just for promotion. She leaned forward ever so slightly. "You've often spoken about privacy, how vital it is for your family, especially your children. But some people have found it puzzling that you've also shared quite a lot of deeply personal family moments, from interviews to books to a Netflix series. How do you draw the line between privacy and publicity?" There it was, the first crack. Harry's smile stiffened. "It's about context," he said. "When lies are told about you constantly, you have a right, no, an obligation, to correct the narrative, especially when it affects your family." Savannah nodded but didn't let go. "But correcting the narrative often means that exposing private conversations, doesn't it? And those details about your father, your brother, even your grandmother, were never part of the public discourse until you brought them forward." Harry's eyes narrowed slightly. "I think that's an unfair way of putting it." "It's just a question," Savannah replied evenly. "A lot of people are wondering where the boundary is." Harry chuckled. "Not the warm kind, the kind that signaled frustration. Look, I didn't come here to be grilled about my choices. I came to talk about the good this project is doing." Savannah smiled politely. "Of course, and we'll get to that. But as you said, the public narrative matters." The tension in the studio thickened. Savannah moved on to what should have been a softer topic. "You've said before that stepping back from royal duties was one of the hardest decisions of your life. Do you ever miss that world?" Harry's posture stiffened. "I miss the service," he said slowly, "not the institution." Savannah tilted her head. "And your family? Do you miss them?" Silence, then. "We're focusing on healing privately." She caught it, a subtle but telling dodge. Savannah knew she was walking a fine line, but Harry's defensiveness was now palpable, and the viewers could feel it too. She smiled, trying to bring it back. "Fair enough, let's shift gears a bit. Meghan." Harry's eyes snapped up. "Let's not," he interrupted sharply. Savannah blinked. "Sorry?" You said this was about me. I'm here. Not her. I was just going to ask how she's doing. She's fine, Harry said, tone icy. But again, this is about me. I'd appreciate if we didn't make it about my wife. The control room lights dimmed just slightly for a commercial cue, but Savannah didn't blink. She wasn't intimidated by royalty, and she certainly wasn't going to let a guest dictate the interview's boundaries. Still, she softened her voice. Of course, but many of our viewers are curious about how the two of you navigate this public life together. You're partners in so many ways, and it's admirable. Harry crossed one leg over the other and exhaled through his nose. We navigate it privately, the way families should. A pause. Savannah let the moment settle, then picked up her next card. Let's talk legacy. You've often said you want to build something meaningful beyond titles and tradition. But some critics argue that without the royal platform, your reach wouldn't be what it is now. That you've distanced yourself from the crown, but still capitalize on the royal connection. How do you respond to that? That was it. Harry's composure cracked, just slightly, but enough for Savannah to register the flicker of irritation. Are we really going there? He muttered, not into the mic, but loud enough for the boom to catch it. Savannah's smile never faded. It's a fair question, one that a lot of people are asking. Harry leaned back in his chair, a practiced PR move, but his fingers tapped rhythmically on the armrest, betraying his internal temperature. I've earned everything I've done outside that institution, he said. I'm not cashing in on my family name. I'm surviving without it. Savannah nodded. Surviving, but still using the titles. The Duke of Sussex is on the book cover. On the documentary credits, on your promotional posters. Harry's eyes now held a fire behind them. That's who I am. But is it who you want to be, basically? Savannah asked gently. Or is it who you need to be to stay relevant in a media-driven world? Harry uncrossed his legs, sat forward, and looked directly into the camera for a moment, then back at Savannah. I don't need relevance. I need truth. Savannah's brow lifted just slightly. And yet, here you are. Again. Silence. The studio lights reflected the glint in Harry's eyes, and even the crew watching from behind the glass could feel it. Something was building. The prince hadn't exploded yet, but he was close. And Savannah Guthrie? She wasn't backing down. Not yet. Not ever. The commercial break couldn't have come at a better time. Inside the studio, silence buzzed louder than the lights overhead. Prince Harry leaned back in his chair, jaw tight, fingers drumming the armrest with rapid taps. His PR handler rushed in from the wings and whispered something hurriedly in his ear. He nodded once, dismissively, his eyes fixed on a distant point behind the cameras. Savannah Guthrie remained in her seat, posture poised, sipping calmly from a Today Show mug. She wasn't rattled. She had faced politicians, CEOs, and war generals. She had handled live coverage of national tragedies. She knew when a guest was cracking. The countdown began. Coming back in 4, 3, 2. The cameras were live again. We're back with Prince Harry, Savannah began smoothly, discussing his journey, legacy, and what life looks like beyond the palace. Harry offered a tight nod, the smile from earlier now just a muscle memory. Savannah glanced down at her card but didn't need it. I want to ask you something that's been trending lately, and not just in the tabloids. There's been concern that your public advocacy on mental health has been overshadowed by, well, let's call it repeated family criticism. Do you think your message is getting lost in the noise? Harry blinked slowly. My advocacy stands on its own. If people choose to fixate on headlines instead of substance, that's not my responsibility. But you created the headlines, Savannah replied, soft but firm. The excerpts, the interviews, the docuseries, these weren't leaked. They were released by you. Harry's eyes narrowed again. This sounds less like a conversation and more like an interrogation. I'm just giving voice to what many are wondering, she replied, cool and unfazed. You've always said you wanted to control your narrative. I'm trying to understand how that control squares with constant public exposure. Harry laughed sharply. Maybe because every time I try to do something meaningful, I get dragged into defending my existence. Like now. That's fair, Savannah conceded, leaning in. But don't you think there's a difference between defending your existence and monetizing your grievances? There it was. Harry's smile vanished completely. I'm sorry, are you accusing me of profiting off trauma? I'm asking, Savannah clarified. You've spoken about your childhood trauma, your mother's death, your strained family relationships, but those stories are now part of a multi-million-dollar content machine. Do you think your pain has become commodified? He chuckled bitterly. It must be nice to sit in that chair and pass judgment on how people survive. I'm not passing judgment, Savannah said, still calm. I'm questioning the message. A lot of young men look up to you, veterans especially, but they're not writing books or signing Netflix deals. They're dealing with pain quietly, privately. Does your model suggest that healing requires exposure? Harry exhaled forcefully. What it suggests is that honesty matters, that breaking the cycle requires visibility. Savannah didn't blink. Even when that honesty involves publicly naming and shaming your family, sharing text messages, voicemails, personal conversations. The Duke of Sussex sat up straight, tension in his shoulders now visible even to viewers at home. I'm not here to be disrespected, he said coldly. No one is disrespecting you, Savannah replied, but you agreed to this interview knowing we'd ask about the things you've publicly spoken on. If those topics are suddenly off limits, then why agree to come at all? Harry didn't respond. Instead, he shifted in his seat and gave a practiced smirk. Maybe I overestimated the tone of this program. I thought I'd be treated like a human being, not like a scandal headline. The jab hung in the air. Savannah's professionalism didn't waver, but a flicker of steel passed through her expression. You are being treated like a human being, she said softly. That's why I'm asking human questions, ones that require accountability, not rehearsed lines. Harry scoffed. You're doing what the British press did, baiting me, provoking me, all for clicks and outrage. You're not in Britain anymore, Savannah replied. And you're not being chased down by paparazzi. You're sitting in a studio, invited, in control of your own words. The silence that followed was heavy. Harry shifted again, visibly agitated. Then Savannah turned the page. You've spoken about your love for America, that this country gave you and Meghan a fresh start. And yet, many of your interviews have been about what you left behind, not what you're building. Why is that? Harry's expression changed. This was it, the moment he'd been dreading. You brought up Meghan, he said suddenly coldly. I thought we agreed this was about me. Savannah blinked. I simply referenced your shared life here in the States. You're pivoting again, Harry continued, raising his voice slightly. Trying to get a reaction. Is that what your producers want, a soundbite? Savannah held his gaze. What my producers want is clarity. What our viewers want is sincerity. What I want is honesty. Are those things so unreasonable? Harry stood up, just like that, mid-interview. I'm not doing this, he muttered. I'm not going to sit here and be poked and prodded like some circus act. The crew froze. A camera operator instinctively followed him as he took a few steps toward the side of the set. But Savannah didn't move. Prince Harry, she said, firm but respectful. Please don't walk away. This is your platform. You came here to speak. Speak. He turned back, frustration etched in every muscle of his face. You don't want me to speak, he said, voice dripping with disdain. You want me to perform. I want you to answer, she corrected. Because right now, what millions of viewers are seeing isn't a man protecting his family. It's a man refusing to be questioned. That struck deep. Harry paused. And then, in a voice just loud enough to be picked up by every boom mic in the studio, he said, "This interview is over," and walked off the set. The screen faded to black. Savannah remained in her chair, composed, still holding her cue card as if the conversation might resume. But it wouldn't. Not that day. The Duke walked off live television. Cameras cut. Viewers gasped. But what happened after the prince's dramatic exit was even more revealing than the interview itself. As the dust settled in Studio 1A, a royal narrative crumbled. Not by scandal, but by accountability. And Savannah Guthrie had just done what no tabloid, talk show, or palace press secretary ever could. The Today Show control room erupted into chaos the moment Prince Harry vanished off set. Producers scrambled behind the scenes, urgently whispering into headsets. The studio director signaled to cut to a Best Moments of the Week segment, but it was too late. Millions of viewers had just witnessed the implosion in real time. Twitter exploded within 30 seconds. Hashtags like #RoyalMeltdown and #SavannahBound Harry began trending before the next ad break even aired. Back on set, Savannah Guthrie remained still, regal almost. She slowly removed her earpiece, exhaled deeply, and looked directly into camera one. The red light blinked on. "Well," she said, her voice calm but authoritative, "as you just saw, our conversation with Prince Harry has come to an early end. We'll be back in a moment with more from Studio 1A." She didn't flinch. She didn't editorialize. She simply stared down the lens like a veteran anchor delivering election results or breaking news. Because that's exactly what it had become. Breaking news. Behind the scenes, Harry's team was in disarray. His PR handler followed him down the hall, pleading in hushed tones as he stormed past the green room, ripped the lapel mic off his collar, and hurled it onto a makeup counter. A junior staffer offered bottled water. Harry slapped it away. "I told you," he seethed, "this was a setup." "No, sir," the handler whispered, eyes darting around for cameras. "It was journalism." Meanwhile, back in the control room, executive producer Lily Saunders was in the midst of 1,000 micro-decisions. "Do not pull the footage," she ordered. "Savannah stays live at the top of the hour. Prep the panel, and someone get legal on standby. We're going to need guidance." By the time the show resumed, the internet had turned into a battlefield. Clips of Harry walking off flooded TikTok. YouTube already had 3 reaction videos with thumbnails like "Prince Harry gets wrecked live," and "Savannah didn't come to play." Even traditional media weighed in. CNN ran a breaking chyron. "Prince Harry walks off live interview. This is a setup." Fox News had its own version. "Royal walkout. Prince Harry melts down on Today." Even BBC, typically buttoned up, couldn't resist the story. Duke of Sussex leaves U.S. interview in state of distress. But inside NBC headquarters, Savannah Guthrie was unfazed. She sat in the makeup room, sipping black coffee, while makeup artists delicately touched up the eyeliner that had barely smudged. Carson Daly peeked in. "You okay?" Savannah offered a small smile. "Never better." "What the hell happened out there?" "He came in thinking this was going to be a coronation," she replied. "Turns out it was a mirror." Hours later, NBC uploaded the full, unedited interview, including the walk-off, to their official YouTube channel. Within an hour, it had 3 million views. Comments poured in faster than moderators could scan them. "This is journalism. Respect to Savannah Guthrie." "Harry wants privacy but shows up everywhere talking about his family." "Pick a lane." The entitlement is unreal. She was professional. He was petulant. So now even Americans are calling out the royal nonsense. Bravo. Never seen Harry this rattled since that Oprah interview. Yikes. Meghan Markle notably was silent. No social media statement. No spokesperson. Just an eerie digital silence. Meanwhile, NBC's PR team fielded thousands of media inquiries. Bookers from rival shows tried desperately to get Savannah on air to talk about the interview. She declined. "This isn't about me," she said simply to her team. "It's about what he revealed, intentionally or not." The next morning, British newspapers were gleeful. Daily Mail, "Harry humiliated on American soil." Again, The Guardian. Guthrie asked what royal press wouldn't. The Sun, "Walk of shame. Prince loses plot. Live on air." Even Buckingham Palace, famously tight-lipped, issued a rare 2-line statement. "His Majesty the King remains focused on his public duties and family. He will not be commenting on the Duke of Sussex's recent interview." It wasn't support, it was a rebuke by omission. Inside Montecito, the mood was icy. According to anonymous sources, Harry refused calls from senior aides at Netflix and Penguin Random House. A planned roundtable for his upcoming documentary was quietly canceled. The problem wasn't the walk-off. The problem was what people saw before it. A man unraveling under simple questions. A man angry not at lies being told, but at the truth being questioned. Later that week, Savannah returned to her usual anchor duties. She never once referenced the incident directly on air. But during a private conversation with her producer, she said something that would echo across newsrooms for years. He thought his title would shield him. I reminded him that in this country, titles don't grant immunity. Truth demands answers. It became a quote, one that political journalists began to share, one that was engraved on a plaque inside the Today Show control room within weeks. The interview went down as one of the most talked about broadcast moments of the decade. Journalism schools began teaching it. Analysts dissected Harry's body language. Late-night shows had a field day. SNL aired a parody the following Saturday with a sharp-tongued Savannah impersonator and a bumbling, stammering Harry. And perhaps most interestingly, the public opinion began to shift. Not entirely against Harry, but certainly away from him. He was no longer the wronged younger brother of William. He was no longer the charismatic veteran who had once laughed with the Obamas and danced in Africa. He was no longer the torchbearer for modern royalty. He was a cautionary tale. A reminder that vulnerability without accountability becomes performance, and that every platform, no matter how carefully managed, has the potential to turn into a stage for your own undoing. So what do you think? Was Savannah too harsh, or did Prince Harry finally meet a journalist who refused to bow to royalty? Drop a comment below and let us know which moment left your jaw on the floor. And if you want more explosive interviews, unfiltered truths, and unexpected meltdowns, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This was Echo Stories, where titles don't matter, but truth always does. See you in the next one.